Hello friends, neighbors. John, your Wish neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook. It's Saturday, so I'm just shooting a review. Just like a regular Saturday, even though I'm still on summer vacation. I'm going to talk to you about this Andean whiskey. It's the only Andean whiskey I've had. I don't even know of any others, but this is black whiskey. And in 2022, a whiskey festival in New York said this was the best whiskey in the world. So it's made from black corn and barley and wheat. And then, you know what? This has the same amount of corn. This is Bridgeland Distillery Tabor corn, which is like the best corn in Alberta, if not the world. And it's out of Calgary. This is a younger, and they can't call it a bourbon. Neither can they call this a bourbon, even though this is corn whiskey. 60% corn. This has got 32 barley and 8 wheat. We'll talk more about it when we get to it. But if you have any non-bourbon bourbon, why don't you pour that? Something from Canada would be great. If you've got this black whiskey, that'd be even better. So we could see if our notes compare in any way. So pour some black whiskey and come on back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. We're going to get into this black whiskey from the Don Mitchell Distillery. It's out of the Andes. It's it's Peruvian. It is unique. As far as I know with this product, it could be one of the only whiskeys. It's certainly one of the only whiskeys I've ever seen up here. And it's actually a really stunning bottle. And when it first arrived, I have to say it sat on the shelf for a long time here because it was priced fairly high, but what a good looking bottle. It's sharp, dark color. Don't know if that's natural. I wish I did. But what I do know is, I think I've got his name, Michael Curla and Deanna, the wife that works on the casking and the quality control, have a history. And I don't know it, and I sometimes print it and read it to you from their website, but it's kind of interesting how his father, Alexis, went down part of industry down there, but somehow now they've ended up in making what in 2022 is classified as the world's best whiskey. But is it? It's sure nice and dark. I hear they only do new oak cask, but charred really heavy, really long. And then of course the key in here is that dark, that black corn. It's 60% black corn that grows even better the higher up you go in altitude. And then it's got 30% malted wheat, which is bizarre, and 10% barley. I don't know if it's malted, but probably malted barley. So it is different. It is dark. Let's go in on this black whiskey out of the Andes. So one of the reasons why I waited, if you've seen my channel, it's been on the shelf for a long time, is there is an alcoholic note that is sour and comes up right away. Thankfully, it's been open for a long time and it's faded. So while I get kind of soured alcohol right away, I can get past it. I get into some cooked corn, cooked molasses, some spicing, almost a hint of a dark red fruit of some kind. It's not fruity, but just that impression. Like the skin of something dark. Boy. It also has a husky, musky note to it. Not grainy, but something like that. Oaky, lots of oak, almost over oaked on the nose. So I'm struggling because there are some flavors that put me off when I first had it. That soured alcohol, that kind of over oaked tannin. But now that it's been open, and I think it's just going to improve. It's starting to give me other roast notes, other sweet corn notes. Very interesting. Let's dive into the palate of this whiskey. Cheers. There is a lot of flavor in this whiskey. This is not a one-note whiskey by any means. Ginger, a graham cracker, nutmeg, clove, and spices that I'm not used to. I still get that soured alcohol a bit, It's not quite soured cabbage, but it's something like that. But then it's got, like, I don't know if it's the darkness, but it's got a dark oak, a char, a smolder, maybe a little bit of very unsweetened chocolate, like cocoa beans. Yeah, you know what? Like I sometimes used to eat chocolate covered coffee beans for no reason at all, but that kind of grit and cocoa, or you're drinking campfire coffee and you're straining with your teeth. It's got a little bit of that. So there is a fair amount of bitterness, maybe a little sweet. Well, no, there is sweetness up front. I better try another sip, Sancha. If this is going to lean into that core, now there was a sweet, creamy grain, a nice sugar, a bit more corn in there. It's got a really good heart, if I may. But I worry that it's young, I've heard. 4 or 5 years, so it's tough to say over oaked, but they've got some active casks. It is a lot of tannins that lends to bitterness, and there's still that alcoholic note. Now, I don't get the alcoholic note at all. Right, second sip, long finish, we're back in there, and it has got a ton of different savory spices. Now, what's interesting is I'm not getting black pepper, that type of, or sweet Christmas spicing, not that. I'm just getting a lot of flavor. So this is a tough one to give a star value. In fact, I've been kind of not wanting to put a star value. I did that originally so that, we could look back 3 years or 5 years and say, well, okay, in his own rating, there's a comparison, because this is only going to get about 3.5 stars. Having said that, it is a complicated whiskey. It's got all kinds of flavors going on, and some of them off-putting. When I talk about over oak and tannic, and I did hear a fellow read, and he talked about wet cardboard. I don't get wet cardboard, but I could see that, like the soured alcohol, the over oak tannins, wet cardboard. Like I could see this really putting some people off. But there's enough going on here that it won a big whiskey award. And I think some of these flavors, and it could be, I don't know if there's batch variation or whatnot, if there was more of that core sweet corn, creamy grain, and a little less oak, this would be a killer. Right now, for me, it sits at 3.5 stars. Coming over to a bottle really close to home. This is out of Bridgeland Distillery in Calgary, and I have yet to drive down there and visit them. An absolute must. I have to. They're so close. This is made with Tabor corn. As I said, I think it's the best corn in the world. Totally biased because I live here in Alberta. But it's 60% corn, and then it's 32% barley and 8% wheat. So not like this where it's like 30% wheat. This is more like the 30% barley. So we flipped the barley and wheat. This is younger. I can't remember how old it is, but it's definitely a younger spirit. It's not 4 or 5 years like this. But they also use new oak, not nearly as long charred as these guys. This I know is good, the goodness of good color, because that's how you should make whiskey. I can't say the same as this. This could be coming from the black corn. I don't know. Anyways, getting back to this. Tabor corn whiskey. They're calling it like bourbon misspelled. And I get it, because you can't call it a bourbon. I think we just embrace calling it corn whiskey. Let's try it on the nose. This is such a different product. The 60% corn is its only similarity. Dark and black. I'm getting black licorice. This is sweet and honey and just that. Some sugars, some cooked sugars, some vanillas. So in contrast, this is all the sweet and this is all the bitter. It's oversimplification. Let's try this one on the palate. Cheers. That is really nice. It is cleaner. It actually has a simpler profile. I got a little bit of nuttiness from that but significant amount of barley. So a little bit of almost malt kicking around in there. Gentle cinnamon spice, honey, toffee, maybe not honey, but sweet toffee, sweetness of corn. It's lighter, even though I think they're the same percent. I didn't say that. Shoot, I can't read anything. I hope this is 45. Yeah, the same percentage. So this is 45. This is 45. And this just drinks lighter and sweeter and gentler, and a little bit of barley with lots of light sweet corn. And the oak is present, but it is handled like it is not in any way tannic or bitter. It's got a little more hug in the long, which maybe speaks to its youth. So they've really selected it well because it tastes great considering how young it is. But there is a little bit of betrayal of youth, maybe in the aggression in the palate and that kind of thing. So these are very, very different spirits. Yes, they have 60% corn, but this is a different corn, different barrels, and a whack of malted wheat, which is really unique. But it was fun to taste two products that in the US would be called a bourbon, but can't be called a bourbon because they're not made in the US. This one won all kinds of awards, and this one actually got an award on it too. I know that they've been the best new Alberta distillery and whatnot, and they have fantastic liquid. Jacques and Daniel, thank you again for sending that my way. This critically for me is a little better, like 3 3/4, pushing into 4. It just needs a little more time, I feel, a little more wood interaction. Whereas this, just critically, it's got so many things that put people off, but it's got just layers of spicing and flavor. So thank you for joining me here. Kind of rambled a little bit. Thank you for joining me over the last little while. I'm going to keep experimenting. I'm not quite liking exactly what I'm doing, but I'm having fun. You guys, hope you're having a great summer, staying cool if you're in this heat wave. And let me know what you think of either of these. If you've had either, comments below. It's one of the best parts.